Good afternoon, everyone. This is Suzanne Miller, owner of Dunrovin Ranch in Lolo, Montana. And we are looking at the Bitterroot River, which crosses Dunrovin Ranch on the east side. And this is one of my favorite views on the river. This is looking south, and I just love this view of the beach and the river behind it and what's called a little slough coming in on the right-hand side. I'm going to take you for a little tour of our 4 web cameras that brings you right into living here with us at Dunrovin Ranch. And this particular view is something we return to over and over again. And as you will watch it through the seasons, you will see it freeze, you'll see the leaves disappear, the leaves form in the spring. It's just a wonderful place. This is also an area that is frequented by a considerable amount of wildlife. On this particular beach, we have seen coyotes, we've seen deer, we've seen eagles, we've seen ospreys, and it's just a wonderful place for us to keep our eye on. I'm going to back up from it a little bit. This isn't a kind of a close-up view of it, but let me back up a little bit to show you what it looks like from a little farther back. There we go. You can see that our river web camera covers a large stretch of the river. Our camera is mounted right along the shore of the Bitterroot River on our property, and it's in a cantilevered pole or tower that was built for us by a guy who worked for us last year. He did an excellent job of crafting a structure that cantilevers the camera out and over the river. So we can move this camera to almost any place we want to on the river. I'm going to move it a little bit to the left here now. And move it facing to the north instead of the south. Across the mountains, you see, across the river rather, you see the Bitterroot, of the Bitterroot River, you see the Sapphire Mountains. And in the Sapphire Mountains, we have seen a number of different wildlife species, including elk, and there's even a herd of wild horses. For those of you living in Missoula, this is just outside the little town of Lolo. We are about a mile from Highway 93 east on the Bitterroot River and looking at the Sapphire Mountains. This is also a wonderful place to see wildlife. Along this beach, which is located on our ranch, we often see raccoons. A great blue heron kind of made it a favorite spot for fishing this last summer, so we were able to watch it. We see deer crossing the river. And this is also where our horseback rides take place every summer. They go back and forth across the river. Let me see if I can go up on the mountain. This camera will take us up as well as left and right. So let's move up on the mountain and see if we see anything. Probably not today, but in the future, we do scan this mountain, and whenever we see the wild horses, we can zoom in on them as well. And this next couple of days, this week until the 12th, I believe it is, the moon is getting bigger and bigger. And on the 12th, it will be a full moon. And many of you who have been with us for some time stay up at night to watch the moon rise over the mountain right here. It comes right up over this mountain and reflects on the river. And it's just beautiful. The other thing I might say is that we have a infrared light on the river camera that moves as the camera moves. So sometimes we see animals illuminated by the infrared light, and it's so strong it will show trees across the river from us. As everyone can see, this is the last of fall. We still have some orange colored leaves there, but they're fast falling off the trees and making way for winter. Last winter, we watched the river freeze several times. It was way fun to watch the river ice form first on the river shores and then out into the middle of the river. Okay, the camera swings backwards as well as up and down the river. It can move almost 360 degrees. So now we're going to take a look at what we call the riparian area on our ranch. The riparian area is the area that is influenced by the river. That is, it frequently floods. And those of you who live in Montana understand that cottonwood trees indicate a very healthy riparian area. And we have a lot of cottonwood trees on our riparian area. And this is an area that you will see a lot of deer, a lot of turkeys, and occasionally you'll see our horses. We don't have our horses down there right now, primarily because it's hunting season. And hunters do come down to the riparian area, and we don't want to put our horses in harm's way. But once the hunting season is over, we will put a few horses down there for everybody to watch this winter. This is a mega highway for wildlife. All river corridors are highways for wildlife. Water is life, and wildlife follows life. The other thing is a lot of different birds are down by the river. Of course, water birds, ducks and geese and various birds of all kinds. Now, in this particular view, you can see a bit of the structure that is holding up the river camera. This is looking directly west from the Bitterroot River towards the Bitterroot Mountains, and right where Lolo Creek comes out of the Bitterroot Mountains. There's a fence there you can see that is our property fence line, and it separates us from a big piece of state land where we also have access. So this is our riparian pasture, what we call it. And we have a couple of bird boxes down there, one right next to the camera. You can see they're kind of at the bottom part of your view. And it had a little tree swallow take residence in that bird box this last year. It was fun watching the tree swallow go back and forth. I think later James will go down and clean out that nest, and we'll watch him do that and see what kind of a nest she built in there. But this particular little open area has been frequented by sandhill cranes and by turkeys and by foxes and by deer. We'll see a lot of wildlife here this winter. And right now, you're looking due west, and just at the top of the little hill you can see in the background is where our bench camera is located. And we call it a bench camera because we call that little hill there the bench that overlooks the riparian area. It's a flat area, and it represents an edge between two ecological zones. The riparian area, which again is the area along the river that is subject to flooding and has a very different vegetation type than our fields do. And all edges between two different ecological zones always bring in lots of animals and birds. The birds use the forest for nesting and for protection, but they go out onto the fields to catch their food. So let's, James, switch to the bench camera, and you'll in fact see some turkeys right now up there on the bench camera. These are some hens, and the interesting thing about the bench is first you see the bird feeders kind of at the top of the screen, and I'll move in for some close-ups of the bird feeders. They're frequented by a lot of different birds, specifically woodpeckers come to these suet feeders, and a lot of red-winged blackbirds, starlings, various types of birds come to the bird feeders. And when they do, they tend to be very messy. You can see do we have a squirrel on that? We do. My goodness, and he has just taken over all the seeds on that one seed feeder. We recently put up some covers on the poles to this particular feeding station in hopes that we could get rid of the squirrels from eating directly off the feeders, but I can see that we're going to have to get a little more clever to see if we can get rid of Mr. Squirrel there. We're happy to have the squirrels, but not eating directly from the bird feeders. Let me see if I can get the camera over there to give you a close-up of the squirrel. And the squirrel is sharing the feeder with what looks like a chickadee. There's Mr. Squirrel, and he's just having himself a feast right now of eating on our bird seeds. James and I are talking about building a Rube Goldberg squirrel feeding machine so they can have their own feeding station and entertain us with their antics of trying to get to it. But for now, we'd like to just keep them off of the bird feeders, and we'll continue to go to combat with them for a while. But the turkeys come underneath the bird feeders because those birds up there are very messy, and a lot of the seeds fall down underneath the bird feeder. And so the turkeys come and the raccoons come. And of course, once you have turkeys and raccoons and other animals, the foxes come and the deer come. So this turns out to be a very popular feeding station during the winter time, when animals, of course, are looking for high protein food to keep them warm and well fed during the winter. Here's a close-up of these turkeys. These turkeys, the feathers are just gorgeous when you get up on top of them very close. They're iridescent. These, I believe, are Miriam turkeys. And I wanted to tell you that we have a wildlife biologist who will be coming out soon to help us talk about the turkeys and see what he can tell us about the Miriam turkeys versus the Western turkeys. I believe these are Miriam turkeys. Okay, James, I'm going to move now to the ranch camera, and I'll show you the bench camera from the ranch camera. Right now, the ranch camera is pointing west, and I'm going to move it so that it'll point east, and you can see the bench camera relative to the ranch camera. So here we are, and I'm going to go right over to where we were looking just a moment ago at the bird feeders again from a distance this time. And you can see the bird feeders, and you can see the turkeys beneath them. And you can see that squirrel is just taking up residence on that one seed feeder, and there are the turkeys. And you can see why we call it a bench. This bench is a flat area, like I said, that goes down, breaks off over into the riparian forest. And you can see how very different the bench area is from the forest area, very different in terms of vegetation and cover and materials. So the river camera is the camera that is located farthest east on our property. And then moving from east to west, the next camera is this bench camera, and it overlooks the river bottom. It doesn't quite get to the river, but it overlooks the river bottom and captures those animals that frequent the forest and the field areas. I'm going to pull this camera back a little bit right now and show you the fields. And I want you to notice that at the top of what you're seeing, you'll see a thin line. And that line comes from the fact that our camera is mounted on a high pole, and it's in a dome. And this is the curvature of the dome creates an optical illusion that is like a line. And that just stays with us unless we are looking straight down. If we look down, the line disappears. It's only when you look up that you see the line. And that's just a function of the curvature of the dome that protects the camera. So now I'm traveling to the west, and this is overlooking our field and overlooking the state land that is next to us. And this camera will go 360 degrees. And as you can see, you get some reflections from the sun on the dome of the camera. A little green blob is kind of appearing on the left-hand side of your screen right now. And that's just nothing more than the reflection of the sun on the camera. And again, that changes if we bring the camera down and away from the sun. If we bring the camera up and towards the sun, we get more of it. So depending upon the time of day, we either do or do not have reflection from the sun. But right now I'm moving across the Bitterroot Valley and towards Lolo Peak. And this is Lolo Peak here now in the middle of your view. And this can be a beautiful place to watch the sunsets and the sunrises. We in Lolo have wonderful sunsets. The sun sets right behind Lolo Peak, and we often have very pink skies illuminating our whole valley. Recently, we've had some terrific sunsets. And now I'm going to come down closer to our own property. This is what we call our south pasture, and horses are commonly in it, although they are not in there right now. I'll show you where our horses are momentarily. And I'm coming down now to our orchard and our garden, which is just south of our pasture. And here, the garden is between our pasture and what we call our barnyard. And our barnyard has gravel and sand to keep the horses' feet nice and clean and in good condition. And this is where our little animals will stay all winter. And I'll just zoom in on these guys so you can see our little animals. And these are our donkeys. This is the donkey we call Miss Maud. She's a sweetheart. She's a lovely little gal. Her color is brown, of course, and she likes to dress up in red because it accentuates her amber tones in her nice chocolate brown coat. Next to her are our two draft ponies. These ponies pull a cart. They're half horse and half pony. They're very sturdy, and because they work together in a team, they are called Captain Lewis and Captain Clark. Captain Lewis is on your left and Captain Clark is on your right. And right now, the barnyard animals are eating lunch. And I don't know where our other donkey is, Miss Gertie. She's out and about somewhere. And behind her, behind these, we have one of the horses that will be staying here this winter. And every winter we end up with a couple horses that stay behind from the herd just because they need a little extra tender loving care. And what you're looking at here is the horse standing behind our barn, or near our barn, where we have hay and feed and all other kinds of things, and he seems to be eating right there. Now, to the other side of the barn, we have what we call our riding arena, and very often during the summer months, you will see all kinds of activities in our riding arena. The children's pony clubs are held there where kids are learning how to do horseback rides. We have riders of all kinds coming to take lessons. We sometimes have what we call a drill team. And there are other events that take place right in the arena. It's a sand and gravel arena. And this over here is where we have our animals stalled outside. But this shape in the middle of your screen is what we call a round pen. A round pen is like a classroom for training horses. We create this round area, and what we do is we use our body language to train our horses, and they're in a confined area where they can run around us but not away from us. And this is where we do a lot of horse training. And in past months, many of you were here when we started to train our colt, Augie. You watched Kelly out there learning from Brandon Carpenter how to train Augie, and it was a very fun and exciting time. We do quite a bit of that in the summer months. So now I'm going to take you around the ranch pole and look at the other side, which is towards our what we call our activity lawn. And our activity lawn is here, and it looks towards my house. And if you were here, you would find me in the building that you're looking at right now. This log building, that's my house. That's where I live. And the fence, this kind of round fence that you're seeing, separates my house from what we call the activity lawn. And over on the right-hand side, you will see a structure with a white roof, and that is our dance hall, We have lots of parties and lots of functions in our dance hall, including weddings and other kinds of parties. And we have a roving web camera that we often move to the dance hall when we have people come to do presentations such as singing or theatrical presentations. All kinds of different things can be shown in the dance hall. And on the activity lawn itself, we also have different kinds of activities, including we've had dog training, we've had weddings. Very commonly we have weddings, and oftentimes people focus in on our ranch arch, which is right here. It says Dunrovin Ranch. Okay, I'm now going to take you across our neighbor's property over to where our horses are right now. Our horses during the wintertime go to a big 20-acre field that is across the street from a subdivision. You can call us an urban boutique guest ranch. We are surrounded on two sides by the community of Lolo. And right now we're looking at this 20-acre ranch with our horses who will be out there now for the rest of the winter. The winter is the rest time for horses at a guest ranch. During the summer, they work very hard teaching people how to ride and going on trail rides. They're busy every day, and they have long, hard summers, just like the people who run the ranch, and they deserve several months just to be by themselves. And the winter time is when they get that time. They can just be over there with their friends. Horses are very social. They have social structures, and they love being with their friends. And they also love the time just to be, you know, asking nothing from us humans, where they can just be without us and do what they want to do. And again, we can go in and look at them up close. And as you will see this winter, the feeding time that we go out and feed them every day is a fun time, because the horses all know what's coming. They recognize our truck, they recognize its sound, and as soon as they hear it or see it, they come running to get more hay. Hi, I see something from Carissa at the Springs. Could you say hi to all of our residents? I would be happy to say hi to all of you. We're delighted to have you, and please chime in with any questions that you have that we can answer right here while you're watching. We're happy to answer questions, so just chat your question and we'll be happy to answer. A big howdy to all of you. I'm going now to the west here in search of more horses. I should see some pretty soon. They're kind of split up today, but I'm also coming in view are two things that are kind of important. One of them is our haystack. This is where the feeding of the horses starts every day, is on this big stack of hay. That's almost 28 tons of hay stacked right there. Those of you who are from ranches understand the importance of keeping the hay covered from moisture, and they're all sitting on pallets to keep them up off the ground as well, so that they do not mold. And that's where we gather our hay every day. And now I'm going to go up and show you our osprey's nest from the back side. And look at this high pole that the osprey's nest is on. It's a huge nest. I'll give you a little history of the nest while we're looking at it from this angle. The power line pole just to the right of the nest is where the nest used to be. That's an electrical pole, and as you can see, there is a yellow wire on the top of that pole, and the yellow wire, I'll show you right here, is meant to keep the ospreys from landing on that electrical pole again. You can see the three electrical wires, and if the companies, the electrical companies, do not take measures to keep birds off of their poles or don't insulate those wires, the big birds like the osprey can electrocute themselves when they bring their wings out. If a wing touches one wire, it can electrocute itself by touching the other wire as well. How big does the osprey's nest get? Well, when they moved the nest from this pole that I'm showing you now, they moved it from that to the pole where it is now, which is a higher pole and on our property. They estimated that the nest weighed somewhere between 350 and 400 pounds. And it gets bigger every year. We'll go in and take a close look at the nest. What happens is with ospreys, they return to the same nest year after year after year, and they keep building on the nest. They keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then within the nest, little birds make their own nests. And it turns out to be a very good situation for the little birds. Hawks and eagles will eat little birds, but they can't eat the ospreys. They could eat the osprey chicks, but not the adult ospreys. So the adult ospreys have created a safe zone for little birds to make their nests. So those of you who have been with us for a number of years know that each spring the ospreys go and steal my hay, and I never charge them for it. They bring it to the top of the nest, and then the little birds come out the minute the ospreys leave and steal the hay and stick it underneath the nest to make their own nests. It's really fun to watch. And every year, the ospreys bring more and more sticks, and you can watch them fly through the riparian forest and actually break off the sticks from the trees that are dead and add to them. That will start to happen sometime in the end of March. You can watch them build their nests. So what we're looking at now is the backside of the osprey's nest, and you can see the camera there. All of this whole cyber ranch started with that one web camera, and you can see it, and we've got little wires sticking up above it. That's called bird be gone, to try to keep the birds from landing on the actual camera. It doesn't hurt them, but it kind of just deters them from landing. The little birds that make their nests in the osprey's nest are generally sparrows and starlings, mostly sparrows, song sparrows. They're really tiny. We'll see some, I'm sure, once we get on the actual osprey nest camera. They are there year-round, and they nest and hide in what we call the catacombs, or the basement apartments of the big nest. So right now you're seeing the bird feeders that we hang in winter from the osprey's nest, so that we can see them with that camera, and also the perch. The perch is the structure on the left side of the nest, and it's intended to give the ospreys, the adult ospreys, and the chicks eventually when they start flying, a place to land, but that's near the nest, but not actually on the nest. We put that up several years ago, and at first we were a little afraid that the ospreys wouldn't use it, or it might deter them from actually using the nest, but we did not need to worry. They love it. They're on there all the time during the osprey season, which is from the first part of April, at the end of March, through to mid-September, early or mid-September is when the ospreys are there. So we're going to switch now to the nest camera. And the nest camera, we are looking right through the osprey nest right now. And it is showing you the bird feeders up and close. And as you can see, we have have a starling right up here on top of the cage for the suet. And by the way, the suet is something that we get from the Orange Street Food Farm. The butcher at the Orange Street Food Farm is very good about saving animal fat that he trims from everything there, and he gives it to us for our nest. We're very grateful to them. Let me see if I can get up close on the starling. The starlings are very, very pretty in the sunshine. Let me get the focus right here. Get the focus. sometimes I have a hard time focusing it. There we go. You can see that starlings are not just little black birds. They're really iridescent. They've got all kinds of different colors, browns and blues. I'm going to chase this little bird here and see if I can't bring him up close so we can look at his beautiful feathers. Here, bring him into focus. Oops. There we go. There we go. He's very pretty. Starlings are very common birds. They are actually European birds. Okay, I'm going to pull back the focus now, the zoom, and we'll see what other birds are up there. Hi, Elizabeth. Yes, I'd be happy to pause. Why don't I pause right now? You can ask your residents whatever questions they have, and I'm happy to go back and forth from camera to camera. We have a number of different birds here right now. The starlings, of course. Let's see what else we have here. Okay. Let me show you. Oh, here we have a flicker. And Mr. Flicker is one of my favorites. I love Mr. Flicker. Everybody knows who's been around me for any time that this is one of my favorite birds. Let me see if I can't get it in focus for you. There we go. This is looks like it's a female flicker. The female is not quite as colorful as the male is. The males have bright red on them, whereas the females have a little less red. How do we fill the feeders? That's a really good question. And in a moment, I will ask our tech guy, James, to illustrate. He'll go out and actually feed the fillers. That's a really good question. You notice the strings or the ropes that are hanging down from the feeders. And those are used to pulley them up. And in just a moment, we'll actually demonstrate. Oh, hi. Hi to everyone. Wave to us. I'll have James go out and wave to you. James, can you go out and get on the ranch camera? And I will take the ranch camera off of the nest camera, off the nest, and put it in the arena. We can watch you walk over to fill the bird feeders. Do you want to do that now? Come on out, James. Come on out from hiding in the office. James is our tech guru, and he's going to come out now and walk across the arena. We're just going to wait for him to do this. Poor James is always the guy who has to do the on-the-ground stuff. Wow, we've got Mary and Lynn and Bunny and Susan and Cricket and Becky and Luella, Skip, Vivian, and Sandra at the Springs. Welcome to all of you. We hope to get to know you. And we hope you stay with us throughout the season. You'll see a lot of changes here at the ranch. I'm hoping to get James out of his office there and over to feed the bird feeders. Come on, James. People who have been around me long enough know that. There he is. Here he comes. There's James. Let's watch him. He's waving. He knows we're watching him. He's the sweetest guy, by the way, on two legs. And following him is a horse named Crow, who is our ranch manager's horse. And our ranch manager is about to leave for a long road trip to the southwest of the United States. And she's taking her horse with her. So James is on the other side of the barn right now, right where the horse is watching. And he's getting the bird seeds, and he's going to go over to the pole. I'm going to take the camera over to the pole, and I'm going to show you that on the pole of the camera, on the pole for the osprey camera and the osprey's nest are some signs for the names of the ospreys and the chicks that were there every year. And this goes back to, you can see this last year, we had a fabulous year. We had, let's see, I think it's the top one up here. We had 2019, yes. Harriet and Hal are the names of the osprey. Harriet's the matriarch, and Hal is the guy, a really good guy, by the way. He got his name because we were so excited when Harriet got a new mate after losing her original mate to an eagle who killed him. We were so happy that when she finally found the right guy, we called him Hal for Hallelujah, Harriet has a mate. And this year, one of our cyber friends suggested that we name the 3 chicks that were born there, Pip, Hip, and Hooray. Because a pip is what happens when a chick opens an egg, and Hip, they were born on the same day, or hatched on the same day. And Hooray is, thank goodness they all 3 hatched. And we had a fabulous year this year. They all 3 grew to be beautiful birds. They all migrated away, and we all hope that one day we will have a view of them. They wear big blue bands that sometimes photographers in the south of the United States along the Gulf of Mexico take photos, and they can trace them back to us, and we get news that one of our chicks is down in the Gulf of Mexico. So this is James, and I'm going to pull the camera back a little bit so that you can see how high up it is. And there's the bird feeder, and he's going to fill it. We can watch him work. It's so much fun to watch other people work, isn't it? This is really fun, you guys. This is really fun. Okay.
Feeders up right now. We've got 4 different ropes that on down the pole, and we can put some different types of seed in here. And I'll just fill part of this one up. I've just got this one scoop, so we'll do that and put this up. We have to fill these up at least probably once a day. The suet cages maybe every other day, depending on activity. And the bench, those are larger feeders, so we don't often have to feed those, fill those quite as much. But you'd be surprised at how much bird seed these birds go through.
Yeah. They're going to eat us out of house and home. Did you see that squirrel, James, that got past your baffle?
Yeah, my arch nemesis. Yes, I saw it.
Well, we'll have to go back to the drawing board to figure this out. So now you can see. I think you can see the bird feeder going up the pole here, and this pole started out as a 50-foot pole, and it got a little bit trimmed when the people moved the nest over, but the bird feeders themselves are at least 50 feet. Don't you think, James? So that's 50 feet up to where that feeder is going now?
Yeah, it's probably 52 feet, yeah.
Okay, so now the nest, the feeder's back in shape, back in place. I think we can watch James walk across now. We'll follow him here with the ranch camera, and we'll watch him walk across to the bench feeders. This will give you some idea of where things are located in relation to each other. And I've got James here on the phone, which is what you're hearing now. So he can narrate as he goes.
So you're going to hear a little bit of banging and clanging as we put our chains around the gates here, and we do that because it's an extra safety for the horses. And in fact, some of our donkeys are actually quite good at opening gates, so we need to chain them closed so they can't get out. So it makes our life interesting if we ever get in a hurry and forget to chain something closed. It's not a good idea. So I'm putting the bird feed away here in the hay barn. We cover those up with some trash cans here and bungee the lids closed so we don't get mice and squirrels and other things in here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll pop out through the other side of the barnyard area, and you can watch me walk past the round pen over there, and we'll pop on out over towards the bench and past the dance hall and get moving that way. Closing up gates behind me, so don't mind the noise here. And Suzanne, if you're interested in where Gertie is, she is in Whiskey's pen right now.
Do you want to let her out? Go ahead and let her out. You know, I think what Kelly's smart. She separates Gertie because Gertie likes to eat everything, and she's a little overweight.
That's right. She, and there's still some hay on the ground, but she is anxious to fight the ponies for it. So,
yeah.
Here you go. This will be entertaining.
Yeah. So James, can I tell them what you and Kate brought home today?
Yeah, I'll run in the office. We'll take a little trip out to the bench with her.
Okay. All right, guys. This is a new addition to the ranch, and boy, are you going to love this. I'm in love already. Okay, so now James is walking right past the round pen, and he's going back into what is called the ranch office, which is kind of right underneath the ranch pole. So it's a little bit difficult to see. We're right underneath the pole. The ranch office is on the other side of this big tree. You'll see him hit the deck here in a moment. There you go.
Occasionally you'll see me come out here in the morning or the middle of the night if there's a problem.
Yep.
All right, so I am here getting a brand new addition to the ranch, ready to go. She just woke up from a nap, so don't mind if she's not incredibly social, but she's anxious to do some exploring.
And this is going to be her new home.
And here, if you can see her, is right now our working name for her is Sadie, but Kate and I just brought her home last night. She's a little puppy from the Humane Society here in Missoula, and we're really excited to add her to our family here. So, hey there. So we're going to go on a little adventure over to the bench, and you can follow us over there, and we'll check out the bird feeders over there. And I'm sure if you watch long enough here, you'll see my wife Kate and I out in the activity area playing with Sadie and teaching her all the lessons a young pup needs to learn. And I tend to like to wrestle with dogs, so you'll probably see me rolling around out there.
We don't know what kind. James, somebody at the Springs asked if you knew what kind of dog she was. Can you give a little history, or at least what you know of her?
Well, she came from one of the nearby reservations and came to the shelter. They don't know a whole lot about her, but sadly, they found a box of puppies near a dumpster.
Oh, dear.
And so they rescued the puppies and brought them to Missoula. And we saw her and her brothers posted. And she looks like she's got some shepherd in her, maybe a German shepherd or Malinois. She has kind of a shorter nose, not quite as pointed as a shepherd's. So she might have a little bit of terrier in her, maybe a larger terrier. But she's just the sweetest little dog. She's got Just a great personality, very curious, but not overly rambunctious. And so we were looking for hopefully a medium-sized dog. So we'll see how this turns out. When you rescue a small puppy with unknown background, it can be a little bit of a wild card, but we're excited for who she's going to grow into.
Okay, now to explain what James is going to be doing at this bird feeder, we have some garbage cans over there that are very secure to keep the bears out, and we have a crank system. So he's going to bring those bird feeders down so you can see that they're all lowering at the same time. This was a great little invention that another guy built for us, a guy who also built the structure for the river camera. And he's going to fill the bird feeders from the garbage cans that are over there. We want to construct a better seed storage area over there. So that's another thing you can watch us do as we build out this bird feeding station. And if you look behind, you can see a big bird, which is probably a turkey. They're coming behind in the river bottom. Can you see the turkeys? They're on their way up, and they're wondering, come on, James, get those bird feeders filled up. The turkeys are down there waiting for their food. Those turkeys are...
Yeah, they're ravenous, aren't they? I mean, all the creatures here.
Yeah.
We've trained them well, apparently. They know where the food is.
Yeah, they do. They're fun to watch, though. I don't mind them being there at all. Your little Sadie's going to have a fun time getting to know all of this.
I think so. She's already quite enamored with all the smells and different animals. And she's got plenty to be thinking about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's actually quite common when we're filling these feeders that birds come and eat, and oftentimes you can fill the feeders and birds will be right next to you on the next one. It almost feels like I'm Dr. Doolittle sometimes.
Yeah. Well, just don't watch the movie Birds, James. Alfred Hitchcock.
If you see me out here start talking to them, then you'll know. All right, so we'll go ahead and fill this up here. And the feeder that I'm filling right now is actually filled with sunflower seeds, and it's fairly light, believe it or not. But the other large feeder is filled with a different type of bird seed, and that one is very heavy. So one of the reasons for this crank setup was so that we wouldn't have to be lifting these up and down with our shoulders and a ladder. It got a little precarious last year with the snow and ice. So I'm going to go ahead and crank these back up. While I do this, I'm going to mute my microphone because it does get fairly loud, and we'll go from there.
James is a jack of all trades. This guy can do just about everything, and it's James that we need to thank for setting all these web cameras up. This is a rather complicated system. We've got wires running all over the ranch down to the river. We've got internet, repeater stations. This is kind of a technical nightmare, but this guy really knows what he's doing, and I just feel so blessed to have him as part of this operation. We so enjoy him, and he's just a really good guy too.
Well, you're mighty kind, Suzanne. It's a pretty unique situation to be able to be on a ranch like this. We're close to Missoula, but we're backed up to some fairly remote areas, and it's just stunning out here. And then to be able to add a technology component that allows us to connect with the rest of the world through the internet. Certainly not without its challenges, but it's a very unique mix of nature, rural, urban, tech, low tech. It's quite a mix of stuff going on here. So it's a lot of fun to be a part of and to be able to experience this, and even more importantly, be able to share it with people.
Yeah. Yeah, we're both, James and I are just sort of giddy about the whole thing. We really love the way technology opens up our world and brings you into it. So I hope that you'll come back for more opportunities to interact with us. When James gets back, I'm going to have him switch the broadcast back to the the Nest camera, so that I can show you the ranch camera from afar. The camera that you're looking through now is also on a pole, and I can show it to you momentarily from the Nest camera. You remember, this all started with our putting this Nest camera up in collaboration with the University of Montana and Cornell University to study ospreys. Who knew that this was where it was all going to end? And there's Kelly's dog, Arrow, going out to meet the new puppy. That's a good idea. The new puppy has already been in to meet Cola, and Cola, there's Cholo and Arrow to meet the puppy. And both Arrow and Cholo will be leaving soon with our ranch manager, Kelly. So it's nice that they get to meet the new puppy before they leave. So I'm going to ask James, let me know, James, when you've switched the camera from the broadcast from the Nest camera to from the ranch camera to the Nest camera, and I'll start showing people from that camera, okay?
All right, we are switched over to the Nest camera, and we're on a close-up on that large feeder that I just finished putting together.
And you can see these are the sparrows, the song sparrows that make their home in the bottom of the nest. They are up here a lot. And I'm going to pull this camera back a little bit so you can see inside the nest, the osprey's nest. You'll see that the birds are all around it. Everywhere you look, there are birds. And this camera has a microphone, so you can hear, once we get off of this broadcast, right now we're muting it so you can hear me, but normally the Nest camera has a microphone, as does the ranch camera, not the ranch camera, but the bench camera and the river camera. The ranch camera is the only one that does not, and that's because there's nothing near it to hear, and we use it for broadcasting people's voices with microphones. But here you'll see all the little sparrows, and these are year-round residents. They just take up residence and stay right here. And let me tell you also that whenever there is a time when you don't hear anything or see anything, that means there's probably a hawk around, and we've gotten some beautiful views of hawks that have come to the bird feeders. The little birds come for the seeds, and the big birds come for the little birds. So it's a lot of fun to watch. Every day is different, and every day is something fun happening. So I'm going to take the camera off of the nest now, and I'm going to move it over to the ranch camera so you can see that it too is on a big pole. And I'll bring it into focus here. This is the ranch camera that you're looking at right now. And you can see that the camera dome hangs down, and then the bar that holds the ranch camera has a line of little things sticking up. Again, that's all what's called bird be gone, just so the big birds don't land on that bar and shake it. And then there's a little thing sticking up on the left, and that's a Wi-Fi antenna. And that's what beams the Wi-Fi, the internet connection, to the bench camera and then onto the river camera. So you can see this is a very complicated system, but James can be very proud of what he has created for us, and I really appreciate all of his hard work. I'm going to pull back now, and I'm going to, well, there's a very pretty bird. This is what's called a house finch, and let's just see if we can see it up close. It's got a red breast. See if it'll give us a good view here of its red breast. Oops, boy, they are fast. You got to catch them fast. Birds are hard to film because of that. I'm going to move this camera to the north now and across my neighbor's property and over to the horses again and see what we can see from this camera in terms of our horses. Again, these horses are all over in this big 20-acre field, and they are just having themselves a fine time, frankly. Let me get the focus going here. Okay, there's one of our horses. That horse looks like Garnet. Garnet is a new horse to us. He came just this last year. Okay, let's see if we can see some other horses. We will have another tour, and I will introduce you to each horse when we have an opportunity here. This is our horse. This horse is called Raz. We call him Razzmatazz. He's a lovely horse. Lots of kids love this horse. That's right, Celia. By the time you get all focused, the bird flies away. That's why I love it when a bird starts to preen. That's when I know they're going to be there for a minute, taking care of their feathers, and I can focus in on them. But they are flighty little creatures, aren't they? Okay, I'm going to go and look and see if we can't find another couple of horses. I'm looking for our young horse, Augie. Augie is our colt, and many of you were with us when he was born, and you saw him be born, and they're hiding, of course, mother and daughter, mother and son. I bet you, I see a rump here, a golden rump. I'm going to go and see if that isn't Lady Lonza. It looks like Lady Lonza to me. That's her rump sticking out there. And near her would probably be her son, Augie. They're just hiding from us right now, so I can't show you them in all their beauty. Okay. Well, I've had a lot of fun with this tour, but it's been nearly an hour. So I'd like to ask if the people at the Springs have any further questions. And if not, I'll sign off so that we can do this again sometime. This is a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. Let me know if anybody has any additional questions. I'm happy to swing the cameras in whichever direction people want. The horses, you can tell, are getting their nice black, their nice long fur for the winter. They're really getting wintered up here. Well, if there are no further questions to chat, I'm going to wave goodbye to everybody, and I'm going to thank you all for joining me. And I hope that you'll come again. We're going to have a broadcast this Sunday afternoon. Thank you all at the Springs. Thank you, Celia, the lady, all of you who have joined us. And this Sunday afternoon, we will have 2 different broadcasts starting at 2:30. We will have Mackenzie Cole will come out to train the divas. And then at 3:30, I'm going to interview our new winter workers, Chris and Levi. So stay tuned for those. Those will both be rebroadcast the following Thursday if you can't make it then. Anyway, thanks to you all. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you, James, also for helping me. Bye.
You're welcome. Goodbye, everybody.